I'm Everette Jordan. I am a resident of Maryland. I've lived here for 42 years since I left the Army. However, I grew up in Altadena, California, a small town about 13 miles northeast of Los Angeles.
What are you hearing about what's taken place and what's happening there?
I've been on the phone and also social media with family and friends from the area, first hearing that the Eaton fire, which is to the due east of us, was going to be a threat and that everyone was being evacuated. The winds were extremely high, and it was a very fast moving situation. Over the course of 3 or 4 hours, the entire town of Altadena was aflame. All the streets, all the places that I had grown up in, rode bikes to with friends, all of my schools, the places where I worked, all of those were reduced to rubble in the course of about 36 hours. And hearing, first of all, taking accountability for where everyone is, trying to count heads, family and friends. My immediate family, my dad and sisters, they live outside of Pasadena, Altadena right now. They live to the east, about 15 miles, and so they are safe. However, several cousins still lived in Altadena, and their homes were lost. They were safe, but their homes were lost. We then reached out through the Friends Network to find out, okay, who is where, and found that because of the evacuation orders, people were all gotten out safely. They turned the power off to the entire town. So you had to go. And they went. And nevertheless, thousands of homes are gone, entire blocks of streets gone. I saw a picture from the sky taken a few days ago. You can see the streets, but everything else is just nothing. And so it just breaks your heart to watch it unfold, and
Yeah,
then to consider the loss, the memory, the affects to your memory.
I and I'm sure folks who listen are going to be willing to do what we can to make sure that the folks all over the area, not just Altadena, but all over that area, if they need something, reach out to somebody. Let us know,
Yeah,
and we'll do what we can to kind of put this out there.
I have heard of a thank you. I've heard of a new organization that just started up yesterday. It's called Ashes to Action, and that is based in Pasadena, and that would serve as the focal point for a lot of people wanting to help. How do you get supplies? If supply, building materials, crazy, all of those things. So it won't just money is always good, always welcome, but then there are a lot of practical things as well. So those, but Ashes to Action is a very good place to start there.
Structures that you grew up in, what's the status of them?
My family moved to lived in a couple houses in Altadena. As far as I can tell, of those four homes, only one remains standing. The other three are completely gone by all accounts. Neighbors and friends who live in that area have told me
Yeah,
that the house is gone.
I
The
know this has to be a difficult moment for you, but what are you hearing or from folks who live there about returning um, when they're able to, and are they? And I mean, one of the things that I've heard on international broadcasts all day is that some of the most expensive real estate in the world is here in
yes,
that place, and it's gone. And there's this question about building, rebuilding so close to, what would be essentially a forest or wildlife area, or if, bottom line, can things be put back where they were if people chose to do that? So just wondering what you're hearing about that, if anything.
yes, hearing quite a bit, primarily through the social media as well as friends sharing. They plan to return. That is what they know. Their roots are there. Their histories are there. Shared histories, both through either community, church, school, work. All of those things are all there. I was just checking in with a young man who he graduated from our high school in '77, and he now lives in the town of Pacific Palisades. So both his hometown and his current adopted town have both been destroyed by fire. He has a son who is on the spectrum, and the the things that the son remembers, all of the things that ground him, that make up his life, all of those things have also been destroyed. And so my friend's asking for prayers for even that son's world, just for the microcosm, but then everybody else's world. They are going back. They plan to rebuild. They're very resilient, very hopeful. Looking at the, listening to the insurance companies and dealing with all the things that go with that, determining the value of everything. They plan to get back in there and looking at the time frames. It's going to take months, if not years. The town of Altadena will never be what it was exactly, but it will be again.
Yeah.
And the people who are coming back in there to rebuild those homes will, they're taking that risk, they're taking that chance
Yeah.
on their memories, but building new ones.
Forgive me for asking that question so early into this. And I mean, this is still unfolding,
Yes.
but I wanted to get to that question early because there are other things that I want to ask that
Mhm.
may build on that as we move through here,
All
this
right.
this this conversation. But I want to go back to the moment you realized that this was going to be the case because wildfires in Los Angeles and on the West Coast in California, I mean that those things, it's almost automatic. You hear about it every year around the same time, and
Mhm.
I suppose a lot of people just take that situation, at least here, for granted. Everything's going to be okay. What was different about this time for you?
What was different about this one is it hit home. It hit the address. You're right. Historically, we call it fire season. The Santa Ana winds would blow in. They'd blow fast. They'd blow hot. And we are right at we're at the base of the mountains. And some communities or even the mountainside would be affected, but our homes were always missed. It wouldn't so much that it would jump over, just the fires would be contained in time to where it did not hit. This time it blew in and it hit everything, with 100 miles an hour winds, embers aloft. It was almost like a fire, the fire tornadoes that you see on TV and that sort of stuff coming so fast, so hard. Um, it broke your heart. I stopped, and felt like crying, trying to take in just the sheer loss, and the visuals coming through was heavy. Oh my gosh, heavy. And
Yeah.
then, of course, you pick up the phone, and you start calling folks.
Yeah. So, what's the prognosis now on, well, what's the status, I guess, of the situation there? Because what I've heard, I mean, it's 1:15 p.m. on January 10th,
Mhm.
2025 here on the East Coast. And what I've heard so far today is that most of these fires aren't under control, and there are five at least. What are you hearing about that? The status of the fires?
Very much the same. The Pasadena, the Eaton fire, is still not contained. It's 0% contained. The Palisades, still 0% contained. Going further north, Silmar and those places, some degrees, they've stopped like 37% containment or something, where they've stopped the forward progress of the flames, and the winds have stopped, which has been excellent. The countervailing problem is the drought. The area is tinder dry, and so burning embers with wind, is a really bad mixture. Altadena had been spared until this time,
Yeah,
where nearly the entire town, east, central, and west Altadena, were strongly affected, and burnt to the ground.
yeah. Um, what is it that you think, looking at the geography there, looking at the natural situation there right now with water, you know, the drought, and of course the high winds, etc. Um, I know that I heard this morning that an individual had been arrested for trying to possibly set a fire, one of the fires, the Kenneth fire, I think they called it.
Yeah,
Uh, but is there any understanding of what triggered this fire yet? Or is it just a natural thing?
there is always suspicion. and rumors are starting to fly that someone perhaps went out to the Eaton Canyon area
Yeah.
and all you need to do is throw a cigarette down or something like that, or just deliberately set it and watched it go. Um, Investigations are going on, I assume. I'm not aware of those at this point because right now it is assessing damage. Um, my friend's trying to figure out if their house is still standing. Most have been able to get back into the town and take a look when the curfews have been lifted. Right now, it's a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. There have been looters in the area on foot. Most of the streets have been blocked off by the California Highway Patrol. And regarding water, they've all been Southern California water system has been fouled, and Pasadena residents are told not to drink the water. There's debris in the water, and so and this is not just Altadena, but all of those areas are now under the same issue. When it comes to the fire, dealing with the fire, no town has the capacity to handle thousands of fires at the same time. Altadena was just one of those. The Pasadena system does not, could not handle all of that. Palisades could not handle all of that. Those town systems are not set up for something of this magnitude. And so priorities were set by the fire department to go after, to save certain structures while they had to watch the others burn.
Yeah. I don't want to go too far down this
Okay.
emotional street here, but I do kind of want to know what it was like growing up there. I
Mhm.
mean, you have fond memories, and everybody
Sure.
does, that's hopefully. But what can you share with us about growing up there? What was it like? What did it feel like? What did you do? Where was it? What was important? What do you remember most?
Oh, and most of these things you reflect when you're older, but at that time it was all normal. But very integrated neighborhoods all through Altadena. On our street, my first recollections were, we were in our house and my aunt lived next door. The Ramirez's lived two doors down. The Nakayamas lived two doors up. You had, the Matsumura. I mean, our high school, actually our elementary school classes were all Hispanic, Black, Asian, all mixed in all those years. It was normal.
Yeah.
And so you'd ride bikes to friends' house and you had friends, you had playmates. It was fairly safe. You could, ride up and down the street. Your parents did not worry about you in those days. And that was similar for a lot of towns. But Altadena was the same way. People looked out for each other. And it was a very good community, very strong community. Everybody was there. And we all acknowledged that we were all different,
Yeah.
but our roots went into the same ground.
Yeah.
And that was something that we shared, but nobody really talked about until today, until this week, when people are standing next to each other looking at total devastation.
Yeah.
And then all those differences were just, and it is through that lens of remembrance of the feeling in your heart, the safety, the security, the things that
Yeah.
that will always be there as far as you know. And then suddenly they're not.
Yeah.
And I'll stop here. Take your next question.
Well, do you know what the history of Altadena is? Where where it came from, where it started, how, who, when, any of that? If you don't, no problem, because right now you got a lot going on in your head. But I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, are there historical things that you remember most about it from being a young boy and growing up?
Oh, oh, sure. Well, see, post World War II, a lot of the folks moving in that area, Pasadena and Altadena was one of the first areas where a lot of minorities could move into. The Asians coming off having been interred, in the camps in World War II. That was a good area to come into. It attracted artists and professional folks. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, is in the outskirts of Altadena. We would hike down there as kids past JPL, the Devil's Gate Dam. Some of our friends, their fathers were um, specialists, scientists at JPL. Again, that was normal. Jackie Robinson graduated from our high school.
Wow.
Yes, that was normal. Um, and so that, that feeling of just total community, it just grew over the years.
Hmm.
Nothing ostentatious, nothing, a lot of good people with, a lot of money live up in there too. Um, but Altadena was just always Altadena at the foot of the mountains. We would hike in the mountains. We would hike up to the snow and then come back home at the end of the day. It was it was fun. We would ride horses. Friends of ours had horses, so we rode those horses. And Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Little League, everything. Now the park where I played Little League is gone. All of those things we'd see just rubble now, and not just me seeing it, but lots of strangers, people I never knew, are looking at those same pictures and having the same feelings of loss. And that's the rough part. And then trying to accept it, and deal with, okay, now what next? How do we help each other? What
Yeah,
do we do? Where do we start?
yeah. I'm so sorry about that. And you know, it's interesting. I remember it was about a year ago, maybe a little more than that, that the Lahaina fire
Mhm.
in Hawaii took place, and I spoke with a very tearful member of the city council there who was asking that same question. She said everything is just ashes right now, and it's just hard to think about what's next. But I kind of get the feeling that your folks have moved through that already and have moved into the next step. So my question to you is, what is it that folks in Altadena need from the rest of us right now?
Right now, a very practical sense, they're dealing with the immediate things. I know FEMA is coming to the Pasadena Convention Center even as we speak, and they are handing out, not so much handing out, but they are distributing um, vouchers to pay rent for the next 3 to 6 months and perhaps longer, for those people who can sit there and show that they have that need. I know the Rose Bowl is used as a staging area for first responders, because the Rose Bowl is just about a mile and a half down the road. It was not, it was not hit. It was spared. The fire did not hit that area at all. And so the practical needs are the most immediate cares right now. Below the surface is the resiliency of the people, the grit of Altadenans and Pasadenans to hold together, to pull together, to do what they can. People who can offer space are doing it. Since the Southern California area is vast, there are areas to move into away from the fire zones, and but just finding space for all of these people for an extended period of time will be tough. You go to families if you can find family, and other places if you've got those you have those resources. But for the many, it is very difficult, and there's still a great uncertainty as to immediately what next. They got their stuff in their cars. A lot of livestock were lost. Horses were running the streets while the fire department was trying to go down. Um, it's it's right now the immediate aftermath. The first couple of days, people are still pretty much in shock.
Yeah.
Those of us who are far away from this, our hearts are just breaking as we watched.
Yeah,
I
because nothing you can do.
No, there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. I was listening to some of the social media, and I was listening to it in English as well as Spanish. I was hearing the sentiments of the people in Southern California, friends of mine whose primary language is Spanish, and they were sharing the same sentiments, the same thoughts, the same prayers, the same concern for the future and how shall we do this, and hearing it and reading it in social media, quite similar, very much the same.
Yeah.
And this is where I talk about the roots all go into the same land,
Yeah.
and that's what you know keeps me strong and trying to reach out and provide whatever support I can to family and friends who are there.
Well, Everett, one of the things I've learned about you in your life is that you've always been a self-starter and an innovator and a person who is an achiever, somebody who gets things done and clearly enthusiastic because we can see that right now, even in this dark time. And this is something clearly that people need there and beyond in dealing with this particular tragedy. So, sort of before we go, I'd like to get you, if you would, to just um, put into context why we're in this situation right now. I mean, I hear climate change. We see the drought. We see the issues and the situation. You know, the aviation assets couldn't get in the air to do what they needed to do. Water pressure was a problem. Um, how do you think Los Angeles approaches fixing this or remedying this, mitigating this for the future?
Oh, you don't ask the softball questions. Go ahead, ask me something hard. Um, this this is thanks. Um, it's always a balance, struggle. Growing populations and the infrastructure to support it all has always been, you know, not just aging, but asking for it to be more. Uh, you know, building more on an old system. People moving into areas that are fire prone, knowing that and taking that risk, and then rebuilding on the same place and taking the risk again. One of the next problems that we'll have in that area, especially those living on mountainsides, is mudslides because the fires will come through and burn all the vegetation off. Then the rains come in, and the dirt has nothing to hold on to, and will slide back down into the areas. And so this is something coming forward next for those people who are near that. Altadena is not in that particular situation, but then what? The redoing the infrastructure, even getting the water system back to potable at this point is an immediate problem. Um, and then systems to handle a great mass public need is will always be a challenge from any big metropolitan area. And LA is crazy big.
Yeah, it
uh,
is.
yeah, and Altadena is on the far outskirts of LA. It's LA County, but it's like unincorporated. It's way
Right.
off out of LA County. But yeah, it's so for the many people coming in, always is an issue. Just the love, um, you know, my heart breaks, and every time I see the pictures, it breaks a little bit more. I hear the accounts, and my heart breaks a bit more. Nevertheless, I try to keep my heart open to try to take on, but not hold on to it all. I'm a man of faith, and so I will direct that to the one who can hold it all
Yeah.
and help us all moving forward. So that's the last thing I would just share there. This is a tough time, and I'm far away. My heart is there. I'm still active in the community there with an environmental group, and so really connected. And I want to thank you for taking this moment to ask me about this. So I really appreciate your concern
Well,
and
this,
your outreach on this.
thank you so much, Everett, for being willing to do this. This is just a very small thing that the most that I could do at the moment. But, I just,
And same here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully, we'll continue working on this and we'll continue trying to do what we can do to help everyone through that and through that time and you as well. Thank you again for joining us on Colors, Everett.
Thank you, JJ. It's been my pleasure.